And another thing that happened later on that really puts the emphasis on the school district that I was in was I had a person whose name was Megan Van Fossen, and I'll call her out because of the things that she actually did to me. I was deathly afraid of the police and of security, all those things, because um, my brother had gone through a lot when he was younger. He's a pastor now. All my brothers are pastors, but he went through some legal trouble when he was a kid, and they had came to the house sometime and they had took him away. Again,
Reverts back to,
reverts back. It
yeah.
all trauma reverts back to a specific area, most of the time. And so I walk in the office, and Megan Van Fossen's like, "Before we start, I just want to bring somebody in here," and brings in a police officer. And they knew because it was wrote down that I was scared of the police. Why in the world would you do that to a kid?
And how old were you when this
I
happened?
was I was 6 or 7 years old, and
And what was her reasoning for bringing this cop in?
she said that so she can just show me, what could so she could feel safe and to show me that, um, you keep on being bad or messing around but I know the reason that it was for. She was very to intimidate children, to intimidate people, and I could say that willingly because it was targeted people.
Do you think it was more of a scared straight type of thing, like kind of like the show, like, oh, we're gonna scare him straight, we're gonna scare him to behave correctly?
I'm sure there was things that were pure about it, truly, but I don't believe part of it was pure. I really do believe it was just for malicious intent of to get a reaction or see my reaction. Maybe it was, but at the time it just seemed like a malicious intent.
Yeah, being that you were so young and she did that, I mean, it do seem pretty malicious because you were only a kid, bro. And you were a little kid at that. It's not like you were like, 12,
Right,
13,
right,
going into your teenage years and
right.
puberty and stuff. You were like
I
a
was little.
kid, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah, an
I didn't
actual
know
kid.
nothing, better or less. I was coming into myself. I was coming to, better understand myself and the diagnosis that I had been given. And so those two people throughout my life, Dr. Lee, Megan Van Fossen, were my, when people tell you something, when Dr. Lee told me that I was going to be in a home, I always say people take two paths in their life when they're told something like that. They either follow it and they end up down exactly where that person said, or that person says, "Screw you, I'm going to make my own life."
And how old were you when he told you that? I meant
I
to
was
ask that
five or
earlier.
6 years old.
You was 5 or 6 around that same time, so
Yeah.
you had a lot of this stuff going on around the same age.
And I might be getting the dates or my age mixed up, but it was all around that time.
I'm about to say, but it was you. You remember that you were still little though.
I
That's the
remember that
biggest thing.
specifically.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. That's crazy.
And my mom would have to go through so much when I was a kid. I'd ask her at night. My anxiety was the worst. I'd be afraid to eat because I felt like that they were from the school district, from the people that I have already experienced in my life. I thought they were poisoning my food. That's how.
It's crazy to even think that because you were afraid of the people that were supposed to protect you, and then to be a little kid and feel like they didn't even protect you, they did the opposite. I know that got to be a tough feeling, bro.
Could you imagine, being a kid thinking that people are poisoning you because they're that against you or that after you? So I didn't eat. I went from like 90 pounds to like 40 pounds. I was like, and that math might be off, but I was looking deathly sick. And the doctor said, I broke my arm at the time. The doctor said, you got to do something about this or he's going to die from, you got to make him eat. Always my parents' fault.
Yeah.
It was always my parents' fault.
And I was going to ask that. How did your parents take all this news?
My mom, and I will say this, my mom always was the one to help me out. So they always, when I say my parents' fault, it was my parents' fault to the doctor's eyes or the school's eyes or nothing they were doing, not being patient, nothing like that. So when I was a kid, I was afraid of getting, poison when I ate. Finally, I got over that, thank goodness, you know. But I'd also lay in bed at night and I'd ask my mom, I said, Mom, am I going to wake up in the morning? Because I don't know if I am. That fear, you know?
Yeah.
And it's hard for me to say. You know what I mean?
Definitely. It's hard for a mother to hear too.
And that's the biggest factor on my mother. But going through school, the turning points where I switched my life around, because a lot of people, if I'm just talking right now, during this interview, I might be a little nervous, stuff like that. But if I'm out in a regular area situation, and if I ever bring it up to somebody, which is rare, if I ever bring it up to somebody, they'll be like, "Are you kidding? Are you serious? I could have never told, that you had something like that." I mean, Josh, could you have when I was?
No, not at all. Not at all. Like, I don't think anyone could until you got comfortable with everybody and then you started to open up a little bit more and actually saying that to certain people.
Right.
Like before then, definitely not. Bro.
Exactly. So the turning points for me to change what I was doing was, I was in Dr. Lee's office and he told me that, which I was like, at that point, I was like, dude, screw you. That's not happening. I'm just telling you right now. My mother told him that it wasn't going to happen. And he said, that's what all parents say. He said that to my mom after that too.
Yeah, that's wild.
Then I went into the class, and this part's kind of funny, but I went into the classroom and they said, James, we got something here to help you out. And this was when I knew I was really screwed. I had to make a change or I was messed up for life. You know what I mean? But they brought me in the classroom and they were like, we're going to give you this vest to wear. I was like, oh.
Vest to wear?
And it was a vest that like was tight around you, so it made you move less. If that makes sense. You know how a weighted blanket works at nighttime?
Yeah.
Same concept. And I said to myself, I don't want that. I'm done with this. I said, that is so, to me, and not saying this to anybody else that needs it or needs that thing, because I'm not degrading those people. But me at the time, hearing what I heard from those people that I was not going to be nothing like that, I was like, I don't need this. And I'm in serious trouble if y'all are offering me this right now, and I need to change my life around. So from grade maybe 7, 8th grade, I completely switched my life around. And a big part of it was moving here to South Carolina, because I grew up in Pittsburgh, moving down here to South Carolina and starting to lift weights. Changed my life forever. High school came around and I was in the IEP my whole life, which was special classes to help, people. And my senior year, I said, this is my final step. This is my final step where I prove myself. So I got off IEP and I got the best grades of my school career off IEP.